How's it going, guys? Football-ManagerYouthDevelopment.co.uk here. Welcome back to the next episode of our Swansea playthrough, where our aim is to make as much money as possible using the Moneyball approach. In the last episode, I believe it was against Sunderland, where we lost that one 2-1. I did say that I was going to get rid of the January transfer window and then come back for this Southampton game. As you can see, though, the results that we were getting during the January transfer window were certainly less than satisfactory. What I've decided to do was just to try and play as many games as possible. I kind of got towards the sort of like April time and I didn't particularly have too much longer to go on the season. I did have some fantastic results against Arsenal and Chelsea. Again, we beat Manchester United as well, but I had some really bad results as well, like the likes of losing against Aston Villa. Losing at West Ham at home is probably not too much of a bad result, but yeah, certainly my main aim really was just to make sure that we actually survived in the Premier League. Having a look at the Premier League table, we did actually end up finishing in 16th position, so the league season is now completely finished. We finished with 37 points, which to me is just really, really disappointing. This team was meant to finish in about 9th position, and I think I'm certainly going to have to, start the next season off really, really quickly. That's if I do actually manage to survive in my role during these summer months. During this episode, I just wanted to have a real catch up on where the team is. I will show you my January transfers as well that I did. I did bring in quite a number of different players during the January transfer window. So we'll have a real quick catch up on them, and we'll also have a look at how the squad performed throughout the whole season. So, of course, using the Moneyball approach, it's basically just to try and find value in players where other teams don't value certain players, but we can kind of have a look at their statistics and their age and things like this, and we try and find value in players where other teams don't find value in them. So with this being the case, there were 4 players that we did actually bring in during the January transfer window. Ryan Mason was not getting hardly any game time at Tottenham, so I decided to bring him on loan. Unfortunately, he ended up doing his cruciate ligaments in, which obviously was not very good at all. I was using him in the advanced playmaker position just behind our striker, and he did actually do pretty well. So in 9 starts, he managed to get 3 assists, and I was actually pretty happy with the contribution that Ryan Mason made. Obviously, we only actually got him on loan. From what I remember rightly, his loan contract, we were only actually paying £10,000 a week, which I think a player of Ryan's capabilities is pretty decent, to be honest. As you can see, he only actually made 6 sub-appearances for Tottenham. During the sort of January transfer window, I was more than happy to try and get Ryan in on loan, and luckily for us, he did come in, but with that injury, that pretty much finished him off for the whole season. The next player that I brought in, and this might seem a little bit of a weird sort of transfer, but Gary Hooper was basically placed on the transfer list by Norwich. So I ended up signing him for £925,000. Basically, I was having a look at sort of Gary's statistics. I saw that his shot percentage rate was about 54%, which I was pretty happy with. I know he only sort of started 6 games, but during the 6 games that he did start for Norwich, he managed to get a couple of goals. Certainly getting quite a lot of his shots on target. And there's a couple of sort of key attributes that I do like of Gary Hooper. So, he's got a fair amount of pace. He's got really high work rate. His finishing is 15. He's got good first touch, good determination. He's good off the ball as well. And there was a couple of sort of things I was looking to get from my strikers as well. So I like that he was placing shots. Comes deep to get the ball as well. These are sort of key, preferred moves that I like basically in my players. So I signed Gary for £925k, and now he's worth £1.4 million. You may look at Gary's age and he is 28, so potentially getting a little bit older, but I do think if I can play him in enough games, then I'm certainly going to be able to do pretty well, hopefully out of this transfer in the long run. He's actually only on 20 grand a week as well, so his wages are pretty low for a Premier League player, which is quite decent. He started only 3 games for me, and I did start to use him as a sub sort of in most sort of games, but hopefully next season we'll be able to get his fitness back up and start using him a little bit better next season. A guy that I was pretty excited to bring into the club was 24-year-old Lindsay Rose. I signed him from Lyonnais, and he only played actually 2 sub-appearances from Lyon, so they weren't exactly valuing his sort of talents too much, to be honest. And when I saw that I could bring him in for about £3 million, I thought that was going to be quite a good deal for us. So certainly he does need to play a lot more games, I do think. Unfortunately, with the sort of partnership, and I'll obviously show you the players that I did have playing in the centre-back partnership when we have a look at the squad. But yeah, I will be basically using this guy a lot more next season. So I did sign him for £3.1 million, and now he's worth £3.7 million. So for a guy who's 24 years old, I do think with some game time, his value is certainly going to increase quite a lot. It's certainly a pretty decent player to get into the squad, I think. So using the Moneyball approach, I was having a look for players that are scoring quite a number of goals. I found this guy who was playing for Olympiakos, obviously in the Greek league, and in 16 starts he scored 14 goals. His average rating wasn't particularly high at 7.19, but he certainly looked like he knew where the back of the net was. So I managed to sign this guy for £2.3 million. Looking at his attributes, he's pretty decent player, to be honest. So when I signed him, he was 24 years old. He's a Mexican international. And yeah, he's really strong in quite a lot of kind of different roles and duties up front. So pretty happy to bring this guy in. Again, I didn't probably play him in as many games as I should have. But certainly next season, I do think, given him a really good quality sort of pre-season and things like this, I do really hope that this guy will start to shine next season. One of the things that I did want to make sure that I tried to do was just try and make him learn a little bit of English. I didn't really just want to kind of chuck him in the deep end, if you like, and sort of see how he got on. I wanted him to sort of get in with the culture of the team, sort of learn a little bit of English, and try and embed him in quite slowly. But hopefully next season he'll really come to the forefront, this guy. So in terms of different players that did actually play for us quite a lot and who did actually do quite well, in terms of average ratings, is actually quite weird. We finished pretty low down in the league, but there's not many players who I would say performed sort of too bad. AU was a particular player who I think flopped pretty hard, to be honest. Wasn't happy with his contribution at all. One of our midfielders that we signed, Madinda, he probably hasn't performed as well as I was hoping that he was going to be performing. So on hindsight, a £2.5 million signing from Celta. When I did sign him, he was 23 years old, which is his age at the moment, and I was hoping that with a little bit of time that he would do pretty well in our midfield. I do think that I will be keeping him around. So at the moment he's got good English, in sort of speaking English and things like that, but he's probably a player that's going to need to sort of like bed into the team. And again, I will be certainly keeping him around for the next season. Certainly sort of happy with his pass success rate, which is 87%. He made a fair amount of tackles per game as well, but just something about his average rating wasn't particularly good. So maybe if I have a look at his stats, so how many mistakes? So overall, we didn't actually make too many mistakes either, so I'm not really too sure why his average rating was quite low. I mean, certainly his shot percentage rate was 29%. So maybe that's something that I do need to look at a little bit more. 73% of his tackles he won, which is pretty decent as well. But yeah, this is certainly something I do need to try and work out why his average rating was quite low. But I'm certainly hoping, the fact that he's only 23 years old, he's certainly a player that I'm going to be looking to keep into the team for next season. Hope that he improves. We had other players like Federico Fernandez. He wanted to leave us for most of the season. He was pretty unhappy most of the way through the whole season. And to be honest, the fact that he's now, he's 27 years old, so he in theory should be coming into his prime, but he didn't really play too well for us. He's worth £5.75 million, and he is wanted by Southampton and AC Milan. Potentially, I might look at moving him on, considering he's wanting to move on from the club for quite a while now. So, yeah, I do think that I'll probably look to move him on during the summer. Maybe just to give players like, Lindsay Rose a little bit more of a chance into the first team. And obviously, if I can find any more centre-backs to bring into the team that are potentially just as good as Fernandez, but maybe a little bit younger, these are the type of players that I do need to be looking out for with the Moneyball approach. In terms of appearances in the team, so Fabianski played 37 games, which is really good return. We John Joe Shelvey managed to play 34 starts for us. His average rating was 7.21, but I was a little bit disappointed from his goals and assists return. So if we have a look at John Joe Shelvey's attributes, in theory, he should be really, really good player. So his passing is 17, vision is 17. Potentially could do with improving his anticipation and his decision making. I certainly gave him enough games in order for him to try and improve that as much as possible. So hopefully next season, what we might try to do, I know he's only 24, so he has probably got a few more years to try and improve. And at £15 million, pretty much he's certainly one of our more expensive players. So I do want to keep John Joe Shelvey around in the team, but I do certainly want him to do a lot more next season for the team, especially in terms of assists. I do need to try and find a way just to get more out of John Joe Shelvey if I can. So one of the reasons that I kept our new Mexican striker out of the team was the form of Gomez. He ended up starting 27 games for us, and he scored 15 goals. So I think that return was pretty good. At the beginning of the season, he wasn't doing too bad, to be honest, in the amount of goals that he was scoring compared to the actual number of appearances. But his average rating was really, really poor. I think mainly that was just due to the tactics I was using. I've needed to just have a complete rework on our tactics, and what I ended up doing obviously really was not going too well, especially around this middle point of the season, roughly around sort of January, beginning of February. After this 4-0 loss to Watford, I really did need to just change so much things about the team. I was happy that it kind of kicked in sort of almost instantaneously with wins against Manchester United and Newcastle. Obviously, losing away against Liverpool is not exactly too much of a bad result. And then we obviously did beat Arsenal, we beat Chelsea, drew against Norwich, and then at the end of the season, I think when we sort of got ourselves into a position where we were near enough safe, I think the players kind of almost seemed to relax a little bit. Obviously, we didn't particularly get thumped in many games apart from the Man City result where it was 3-0. We only lost actually by the odd goal. It was quite a recurring theme actually throughout the whole season. In no games did we get absolutely thumped, maybe apart from the Watford game was a pretty low point, to be honest. And our job security did actually go down to insecure after that game. It was an absolutely horrendous January transfer window, and the whole point of me just trying to finish the season and just to get it done was, I didn't actually really want to record an episode around here for it to kind of finish, with us getting a sack in this Watford game. So, I needed to spend a little bit of time away from, recording and just really watching the games on full highlights, just sort of seeing where I can improve the tactics, improve the team, things like this. Because I just didn't want this series to end sort of prematurely. So in terms of finances, we have finished the season with an overall bank balance of about 20 million, and we made 22 million pounds in profit this whole season. So obviously that was mainly down to our wheeling and dealing in the sort of transfer window. So we bought in 37 million pounds worth in transfers. In terms of the players that we actually sold, so obviously we only really sold sort of two kind of key players, if you like. So Gylfi Sigurdsson and Sung Young as well. So they were the two kind of big players that did leave the team. In the January transfer window, I sold Marvin Emnes, but again, that wasn't exactly, a big loss in the slightest. We did spend about £12.5 million on players. I think overall, our wheeling and dealing wasn't too bad in the January transfer window. I'm certainly happy with the return, that Jensen gave us. Just waiting for this to load at the moment. So yeah, Jensen we bought in, if you remember, for 71k, and he managed to get an average rating of 7 overall. Again, he didn't particularly contribute much in the way of goals or assists, which is something that I would like him to improve upon next season. But he is still only 22 years old, and he's still got a little bit of way to go before he's at his potential ability. And certainly if we're playing him in the number of games that we have played him in so far, then he should hopefully be pretty close to reaching his full potential. Fingers crossed next season he can look to improve his current ability and obviously contribute a little bit more in terms of goals and assists. That would be what I'm certainly looking for him to do next season. So another player that I was really happy with in terms of a signing was I'm not going to pronounce his last name, so I'll just call him Bryce for the sake of having a look at him. But the right back that we signed from Marseille, we got him for £1.6 million. Really, really happy with it, with this signing, to be honest. So overall, he got an average rating of 7.27 after starting 22 games. Really happy with his return, to be honest. He got 11 yellow cards, which I didn't actually realise he ended up getting that many in the end, which is obviously not very good, but certainly something that's not kind of a deal breaker, if you like. The kind of main sort of selling points of this guy really were his physical attributes. He's actually got quite strong mental attributes as well. His technical attributes aren't exactly fantastic, but you can see with the amount of Premier League football that he has been getting, that is certainly, you know, taken a toll on his technical attributes, and he certainly is improving in that area. So overall, I think it has unfortunately been quite a disappointing season, but yeah, I am certainly hoping with, you know, kind of next season, I'm looking to kind of move a few players on. I don't think there's going to be too many changes to the team. I think I do certainly need to just kind of bed these players in, let them improve as much as possible, and just kind of see how they get on. Obviously, if we do kind of see any players that have performed well in terms of their stats or, you know, kind of what they could bring to the team, the idea, I guess, with Moneyball is to try and improve the team where it's at its weakest sort of point as well. So, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot of analysis basically on the team, but if I do kind of have a look at the squad, and then if we go to squad depth and just have a look at the overview. So this is quite a good area to have a look at if you're sort of using the Moneyball approach. With the Moneyball approach, you are I guess to a certain extent meant to kind of use what you have got. It sort of teaches you not to try and spend a hell of a lot of money on strikers. It kind of teaches you that, you know, the strikers are expensive because they kind of score goals, but you know, you do need to try and be improving the weakest areas of your team where possible, just to try and make sure that you're, you know, as strong as possible. And I do certainly, you know, I can see areas of the team where it does need to be improved. So if I have a look at our right midfield options, for example, AU played really disappointing throughout the whole season, but our next best player apparently in the sort of right wing position is Wayne Routledge, and he's actually only got 2 stars. So, you know, having a look at players in these type of positions, obviously Ryan Mason at the moment is on loan. He's currently rated at 3.5 stars, but if we have a look at our next best centre midfielder, we're looking at Jack Cork, who's only got 2.5 stars. So again, you know, these are the type of things that I will be having a look at, and obviously just as well as having a look at the kind of players' stats as well. So I do actually have kind of custom reports and things like this that I have made up. So sort of for my midfielders, for example, you know, I'll be looking at the amount of mistakes. I'll be looking at the kind of key passes that the players made. So obviously one of our better performing players was Wayne Routledge, and he actually made 161 key passes, which I think is really, really good return. He didn't potentially get as many assists as he probably should have from making 161 key passes, but you know, that's for me to sort of analyse and just kind of see exactly what's, you know, did go well and didn't go too well. Obviously, if there are players that are making a lot of mistakes, like Jack Cork, I do need to kind of review why he made so many mistakes, and just sort of see if I can either tweak my tactics or potentially bring in a different player who's likely to make less mistakes for me. Obviously, if I do kind of improve on areas like the amount of mistakes that the players make, then, you know, that should improve our team performance overall. So I'm going to call this the end of the video, guys. Yeah, I think getting the first season out of the way was quite important for me, just to, you know, kind of see where I just wanted to take this team and where I do need to build them. Obviously, hopefully I won't actually get sacked during the summer months, and we will be back for the beginning of the next season. I'm certainly going to have to make sure that we are performing really, really well at the beginning of the next season, and, you know, hit the ground running, just so that we can yeah, just look to improve the team as much as possible. I hope you're enjoying this series. If you are, please do drop a like. It's really, really helping the channel. And yeah, thank you very much actually for the support you've shown this series so far. It's been really, really positive. And of course, leave your comments and do subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. And we'll be back very, very soon for the start of the next season. Thanks for watching.